You haven't started yet?
Oh.
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 Are we on YouTube? Wait. I'm in a box. I'm in a box. Here we go. Oh.
Yeah, watch live now, Crossbridge.
Brad.
What?
I can't. Wait, I'm doing this wrong.
I can't, when you're looking.
Why are we on Facebook? We're not on Facebook?
We're trying to get on Facebook.
I feel like you are messing things up.
Well, we would like to be live
West
right now.
Virginia, we would love to be live.
That's because I can't get on Crossbridge or Facebook page.
No worries. Yes, we are not live on Facebook right now. I'm convinced we're also not live on YouTube.
Welcome, and if you're on YouTube.
If you're on YouTube, then you are tuning in.
My phone won't go to Crossbridge Community Church.
Huh.
There it goes.
Did you get banned?
Maybe.
Did we put you on a temporary ban?
Probably a temporary ban.
Man, I'm so sad.
Banned. Ban, not banned.
We are now live on Facebook.
Well,
hey!
Hey, everybody. Sorry we were a little late. We had a little technical difficulty.
Yes, his name's Trevor. That was good.
You may have noticed if you have a Verizon phone that you didn't get calls all day.
Yeah, you might not have gotten calls all day.
I had all kinds of people. I had
that's the excuse Brad's using.
All kinds of people. I had 3 calls today that I couldn't make today.
Yeah, and 2 of them were
and
to
why
his
do you
wife.
say why do I exaggerate like that? I'm not sure.
What are you talking about?
Maybe if you are on Facebook right now, you could start a watch party.
Yes. Start a watch party. Pull out your phone or your computer. Well, actually, if you're watching with us now, then you have probably already logged on to your phone or computer. But
correct.
Press either the share button and go down to share the video, or if like some people, then we cut out.
We did?
Now we're back.
Now we're back.
You can just go to the start a watch party button right underneath the video.
My watch party has now started.
Did you turn off your volume?
I did turn off my volume.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Yes.
I did not make the rookie mistake
today.
today.
Can I believe it? No, I cannot believe it.
So it's getting started today. We've been talking a lot about music.
Yes, music. We have been talking a lot about music. Because Trevor decided, I don't know if you want me to spoil this. Should I not spoil this?
We don't want to spoil it.
Okay, so Trevor, coming soon, Trevor, our youth pastor, is putting together his top 10 songs
of every decade.
Starting back in the 50s. Okay, so we'll have 10 from the 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way up to 2020.
Let's do a show on that some night.
We should do a show on that.
Bring him on.
We should have him reveal kind of like his draft picks for the March Madness.
Exactly.
I like it. Well, then, Trevor, you've got to come up with a March Madness bracket, top song of each decade for you after you narrow it down to top 10. Sound good? All right, viewers?
There you go.
So let me start a watch party talking about, I still haven't started this yet, talking about mental illness tonight. Yes, we are. That's a little bit of a tease for everybody that is interested in knowing what we're talking about tonight.
Right.
So, hey, well, let's get started with our question. We like to start with just a fun, random question, and it is my turn to ask Bradley a question this week.
I am ready to go.
All right, and Brad, you have been struggling with your hearing a little bit lately, okay?
I have not been struggling with it. Other people have been struggling with it.
With you not being able to hear them?
With me saying, huh? All the time.
Yes.
What?
Well, this is not a question about hearing. It is a question about sight. But I just wanted to make fun of you for your hearing.
Thank you for that.
How many colors can the human eye see?
I really don't. I don't want to hear anybody.
Did you not hear that question either?
Yeah. How many colors
can the human eye see?
I'm stalling. How many colors?
Like the bathroom.
Can the human eye
If you know the answer to the question,
see?
type it in the chat. How many colors can the human eye see? This includes shades, different variations of colors, and it is a lot more than you think.
Really?
Yes.
Thank you for that little hint.
Well, I was hoping you weren't going to guess like 10.
That actually crossed my mind because I wondered if it was a trick question.
If it was a trick question?
Yes.
It's like Roy G. Biv only. Red, orange, yellow.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay. I'm going to say 6,452. Not even close.
Not even close. Add a 0.
Really? 6 figures?
Yeah. You just guessed us. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Isn't so? You said 6,000.
6,000. But
Yeah.
6 figures is like
Okay,
600,000.
but if you add a zero, then it's 60,000.
Oh, it's not 6 figures. It's only 5 figures.
Oh boy, no, this is like 4 figure. It's like
Okay, what is it?
it's 7 million.
Seriously?
Yeah, can you imagine a Crayola box with 7 million crayons?
I never would have ever thought of that.
Yeah. But that's what Wikipedia says, so we're going with it. Hey, Nicole guessed 645.
645. She was farther off than I was.
Yes, she was.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
See, shows you just what I don't know. Anyway, hey, welcome everybody
Welcome.
See Through
Thursday. Because we're just looking forward to the weekend.
Man. C3 Thursday Live. My name is Brad Maddox, and I am the outreach pastor here at Crossbridge Community Church. And to my immediate right is my good friend Jordan Chitwood, who is a young adults pastor at Crossbridge.
What's your immediate right? Like, what if it's a pausable right?
Because you are directly 90 degrees from me because of the table.
90 degrees.
Isn't it?
I feel like that's not
Yeah,
accurate.
90 degrees. Yeah,
You put
that's
your
true.
right foot in. Hey, well,
Left
anyway. Yes.
There, that is 90. You are 90 degrees.
Oh, man.
So there you go.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we are something else. But, hey, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We've been looking forward to tonight because we're going to be talking about something that really has kind of just been a growing trend, growing issue, really just all across the world.
Yes.
But it's something that we wanted to talk about because we are noticing more pastors, more lay people, individuals in the church struggling with it as well. And that's
Right.
mental illness.
Right.
Okay. And so we're going to be just talking a little bit about mental illness. And this is something that I have struggled a lot with.
Sure.
And this is something Bradley has not struggled a lot with in the same way.
Correct.
If you wanted to share anything about that or
No,
whatnot.
it's as we were preparing for this and talking about this is one of those subjects that the church really does not know how to talk about or what to do with.
Yeah.
And especially those, as we were talking earlier, in my generation. And I don't know if it was because it wasn't as prevalent, or we just refused to talk about it, or because if you would admit that you had some kind of mental illness or what was happening in your life, you had depression, anxiety, whatever it is, then you were considered weak, and
Yeah.
you just couldn't do that. It's kind of like don't cry.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's part of it in our generation, or if there's just something happening in like what we talked about your generation that
Yeah.
it's more prevalent for some reason.
Yeah.
And we don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Us boomers and older generations don't know how to handle this, and I think we've actually done more damage because of that. And we're going to get to some of that of how we should handle that later on. But I think for those of us who have not really had an issue with maybe some mental illness or been around it a lot, we have a tendency to just think, well, just get over it.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that. So
Yeah.
I think it's a pertinent discussion, not only for those who are struggling with some mental illness, but those of us who maybe don't struggle with it, but don't know how to handle or act or come alongside someone who does struggle with this.
Absolutely. And that's our goal tonight, is whether or not you are struggling with mental illness, and we're going to define what we mean by that in a little bit, but whether you or, we guarantee you probably know somebody
Absolutely.
That is struggling with it or battling every single day with it. And so we just want to share a few statistics with you to kind of get this conversation going, because we do believe there is a stigma in the church, the universal church of mental illness, whether it's anxiety, depression, thoughts of suicide, bipolar disorder, etc. You can just keep naming the list. We do think that there is a stigma, and so we want to talk about it. And so just some statistics that a few different sources. The first is from the Mental Health First Aid of America. And in the United States in 2019, almost half, 46.4% of adults battle a mental illness.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy. So 1 in 2 people battle a mental illness or experience mental illness during their lifetime. In addition, the American Psychological Association found the percentage of people dealing with suicidal thoughts increased by 47% from 2008 to 2017.
And today, after I had just read these notes, I was actually skimming Facebook, and I saw a statistic that was saying that teenagers from 2007 to 2017 was 57%.
Yeah. which is
was
just
frightening.
crazy.
Frightening.
Yeah, and those statistics, like I said, from 2008 to 2017 for teenagers, it's increased almost 57% in the last decade. And so if you were someone doing the math, imagine what the next 10 years could look like.
Exactly.
It's just crazy. It's terrifying, and it's something that we want to talk about. And the last statistic we wanted to talk about, it's really not just a statistic. It's kind of what our generations are known for struggling with.
Right.
Millennials are kind of labeled as the anxious generation. This is... I struggle a lot with anxiety. Most millennials struggle a lot with anxiety. I was looking at statistics anywhere from, 56 to 75% of millennials say that they struggle with anxiety at some point in their life.
Right.
And then with your generation, with the baby boomers, just dealing with that, it's more so leaning towards depression. Yeah.
Yes.
Depression, and for a couple of reasons, maybe that you want to hit on a little bit. One, because of loneliness as they get older in life. Their friends, family members.
Are you saying
pass
I'm
away.
lonely?
No, you have me.
That's true.
I'm just saying you're old.
I surround myself with millennials. That's what I do.
Loneliness, but then I
Yes.
think also the shift in generations, especially from boomers to millennials, has been so drastic of a shift in how culture has changed.
And I think that's what the thing that really throws, again, those of us in my generation is because you think, how did it become so rampant?
Yeah.
And I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, I think as I've been researching and stuff, I think a big part of mental illness, and let me just quickly define this actually
Right.
so that we know what we're talking about. Mental illness, there's not a set definition, but mental health first aid defines mental illness, just refers to a wide range of mental health conditions such as disorders that affect your mood, thinking, and behavior. Examples of mental illness are anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, thoughts of suicide, schizophrenia, eating disorders, addictive behaviors, thoughts of worthlessness. So really, it's basically when your mind is battling something.
Right. And one of the first disorders that mental illness disorders that really came about in one of our generations was the eating disorders.
Oh, really?
Anorexia. I mean, that was very big. Bulimia, things like that was the ones that I can recall
Yeah.
really first coming on the scene and thinking, oh, wow, I hadn't really heard of that before. And so, yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah, well, this is part of why we really want to talk about this tonight. And kind of how we're going to set this up is Brad's going to just be asking me a few questions, and it'll be kind of interview-based because I'm someone that has been diagnosed with anxiety disorder, struggles a lot with depression, sometimes thoughts of worthlessness. My brain's really crazy. But this is also why. There is a movie that just came out called Joker. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it, and I've seen reviews and things like that on it.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people talking about it. I honestly know nothing about it.
Yeah, well, Joker is based off of the DC
Batman
villain, the Joker.
Right.
Okay? It's actually done very well in the theaters, but it's more so based on how he came to be the Joker and his mental illness and the things he struggled with.
Okay.
And so it's a darker look at the life of the human behind the villain.
Right.
And a big reason why I haven't gone and seen the movie is just because of the triggers of mental illness that there is with it.
Right.
But there's a quote in the film that kind of I just want to transition us into our conversation tonight. A quote in the film that I thought was really powerful, where the individual Joaquin Phoenix that plays the Joker, he says something like the biggest issue surrounding mental illness is that individuals act like or encourage those with mental illness to behave as if they don't have it. And I think that's just so powerful is since there is such a stigma around mental illness, a lot of times our natural response is, well, just don't be worried.
Right.
Or just don't be sad.
Right.
Or just, well, you're not fat. You're not, of course not.
And for those of us who don't struggle with that, it just doesn't compute that someone could actually be feeling that way.
Exactly.
When there's no reality behind it whatsoever.
Exactly.
And so it just doesn't compute if you're not struggling with that.
Well, and it's so much easier for us on the outside looking in to say, like, to look at the rationality of things.
Right.
Often with mental illnesses, whether it's specifically anxiety or depression, those are situations where it is so good to have a third party walking with you in the midst of all of that because they're able to look on the outside looking in and say, yeah, this isn't rational thinking.
Right.
But some of the other disorders, such as an eating disorder or bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, where it is so difficult, especially with bipolar and schizophrenia. Medication is often suggested. It is so difficult for us to see the rationale because of what our brain is struggling with.
Right.
So, well, hey, let's just dive in. We're going to have an honest conversation about this.
So, and you've already mentioned this a little bit, but just talk, and you've preached about this and actually done a spoken word on this, and I would go to our YouTube site and watch that because it's amazing.
Yeah.
One of the best videos we've ever done. And it rang so true to people. That video, I mean, went basically pretty much viral. Did it not?
For Crossbridge, yes.
For Crossbridge. Well, not according to, but I mean for us, for what we're doing.
For what we were doing.
And we were getting so many people talk about how powerful that was, which shows us there's a lot of other people struggling with a lot of things like that. So just talk just briefly, you don't have to get into a lot of detail of some of that you've dealt with.
Yeah, I'll just speak on the anxiety part. About around December, I remember preaching here on stage and preaching on the sermon of the broken nets, where Jesus calls his first disciples, and he goes to Peter, says, leave your nets behind, okay, and come follow me. I remember giving this, for me, was a powerful sermon. It was probably still one of my favorite sermons I ever gave. I then go home, and Marissa and we take a nap. I can't sleep because my brain is all over the place. And I remember in the moment, like, it was my first panic attack. I started having compulsions, couldn't breathe. I started crying. Like, it was just insane. I was so anxious and terrified about who knows what. And I just remember shaking Marissa awake and needing someone to comfort me because I was battling anxiety. Mm-hmm. And that's when I actually ended up writing Breastplate of Anxiety. So the spoken word that you had referenced, I remember texting Trevor, a youth pastor, and then one of our young adults, Ryan Volkert. I said, hey, can you help me put together this video? And I want to preach on this sometime. Well, anxiety for the next like 4 months, I started having panic attacks, struggling with the fear of loss, struggling with fear of control or wanting to control everything and refusing to let go. And it just consumed my life.
Right.
I was trying 4 or 5 different medications. Nothing seemed to work. I'd been to counseling and was helping me process some of the stuff, but then I would, still invest in my spiritual life and find myself just broken still. And it was a constant battle all the way up until about April, when I did end up finding a medication that helped. And I started to be more intentional in how I was living outside of just, my prayer life or my counseling life. I started being more intentional on what I was eating, exercising, making sure I was doing things I love, and battling my anxiety and mental illness really in general just head on.
Right.
And so that's kind of just been my struggle with that the last year.
And when you talk about your spiritual life, what's been kind of the go? You have a verse that you kind of go to. What's your go-to of? Because here's what I appreciate as you've been so honest with this, which a lot of people would not want to do and publicly say, hey, this is what I deal with. This is what I'm battling.
Yeah.
And we even had a conversation last week about some of the anxiety you had, and you said, I know in my head that this, I shouldn't be feeling this way, that it's not real.
Yeah.
But it's still there.
Yep.
And so what's your go-to of trying to get yourself out of that mode?
Yeah, and it's so important that you are able to recognize that the thoughts or the feelings that you are experiencing are not real and do not have power over you, that you don't give.
Right.
Okay. A lot of times, especially with anxiety, it feels like I'm just being consumed by my anxiety and that there literally is something taking control or power over me. And anxiety and depression specifically only have power that we give it.
Right.
Okay. The verse that I go to, Philippians 4:6, Paul's writing to the church in Philippi that says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, through prayer and petition with thanksgiving, give your concerns to God. And that's just a powerful one for me because as we're going to be talking about just some next steps that we can take in a little bit, Paul provides you with, first he gives you the command, do not be anxious. And if you just stopped there, you want to say, thanks, Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's one of the things.
Because that's what we tell you.
Exactly.
Hey, just stop. Don't feel that way.
Yeah, but it's even so naturally, like even when my wife is struggling with some of these things, I mean it in a good way, and sometimes I slip and say, "Hey, just don't be sad." like just don't be like you're because I mean it in a good way. Like it's so pure. Like you're so great. Like why could you feel this way?
That is something, because I think there are times that we may say something that actually hurts somebody, you know, and we want to avoid that. But I also hope that people who deal with depression and anxiety understand that for those of us who may say something that seems hurtful, it's most times it is not intentional. It's just that we're stupid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah,
but,
we're just dumb.
Well, and it's the same thing with suffering. Nobody ever knows the right things to say when someone is going through some suffering.
Exactly. You know, and even at funerals and things, I can't remember where I heard this at one time, but I heard someone say, you know, instead of saying something, a touch on the shoulder, an embrace or something, and just keep your mouth shut, because I am one that is going to say something stupid. And so I just let them know that you are genuinely, and you by facial expression things.
Yeah.
So don't say something dumb. Just let them know that you are there.
That's good. Yeah. And we cannot underestimate or overestimate, I'm not sure, one of the words. We cannot stress enough how important it is, whether you're battling suffering, whether you're battling a mental illness, whether you're going through a trial or tribulation, how important it is to have people walking with you in the midst of it.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question is for you is there's, like you said, 1 in 2 people deal with some kind of mental illness. If you're not dealing with it, you know somebody very close to you that is or will be. And so, what's your advice? What's your advice to someone who is maybe, you know, I don't want to tell somebody. I don't want them to think badly of me. I don't want them to think less of me because this is what I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
What's your advice?
Yeah. Well, as I was looking up the research today, it was kind of just mind-boggling to me. I saw that about 55% of people end up not ever sharing with someone or seeking professional help.
Right.
And before we go any further, we're going to be talking about some next steps in a bit. We want to encourage you to make sure that if you are battling with mental illnesses, and I want to repeat this a couple times, if you're battling with anxiety, depression, whatever it might be, seek professional help and spiritual help. It should not be one or the other.
Right.
I'm a firm believer that it should be both.
Right.
It should be both professional help and spiritual help. Wanted to make sure I said that a couple times tonight.
And
before.
There's nothing, and we say this all the time, is there's nothing wrong with getting counseling.
Nothing.
It actually is a very brave thing to do. It is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You need to have somebody, and we get a lot of people come up and say, hey, I need to talk to you. And some of this stuff is just beyond our expertise.
Absolutely.
And you have to go to someone that knows and deals with this stuff and knows what's triggering it, can figure out what drill down and get you to a point of health.
Yeah. Hey, so to your question, it was so important for me to find somebody in my life that was not my spouse, that I could text whenever I needed to, and not necessarily even get advice from them, because so often when people give advice, they try to fix the situation, and that's not what I needed.
Right.
I just needed someone to affirm who I was rather than trying to fix who I was. And so I have one friend. I have a couple friends. This one friend in general, though, lives in Pittsburgh. And I actually just texted him when we were at Catalyst a week and a half ago. I just texted him and I said, hey, man, I'm struggling right now with insecurities. Can you just remind me who I am? And within minutes, he texted me a paragraph just encouraging me.
Yeah.
And it filled me with so much joy. And yeah, I did have to ask for encouragement. And I have no shame in that.
Right.
With my number one love language being words of affirmation and words of encouragement, I know that I am a person that needs encouragement more than most people. And it's not because people just don't love me, and that's not why they're not giving it to me as much as I need it. It's just because that's how I receive it most, and so I expect it more.
Right.
And so it is not wrong for me to initiate that encouragement, to say, hey, I know that my friend TD cares a lot about me.
Yeah.
Would you mind just reminding me? And because he cares about me, he won't feel bad about it at all.
And it doesn't help you to work around a bunch of people who don't affirm
I know. Our office is so affirming. No, but the first step of advice that I would give is find that one person. And remember, I had to take a step and say, I need encouragement right now. I believe these are lies. Let me ask for encouragement.
Right.
Or whatever your love language or however you receive affirmation, don't be afraid to ask. And that is what I think, and you hit on this, that is what is so crucial for mental illness, is too often we are too afraid to speak out about it.
Absolutely.
And that is what kills us.
Yeah.
literally and figuratively.
Absolutely.
There was a pastor that, kind of just wrecked you and I.
Yeah.
Last month, Jared Wilson or Jared Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
Associate pastor.
Advocate for suicide. He ran a nonprofit
For mental illness and
for mental illness
prevention.
and suicide prevention.
And the day before he ended up killing himself, he did end up killing himself. The day before, he tweeted something powerful. He just said, "Loving Jesus does not necessarily mean that the suicidal thoughts will go away."
Right.
And you just see someone who is so encouraging, so loving, so happy all the time, and you know that there's something deeper going on. And there's so many of us living like that.
Right.
Robin Williams, another example,
Yeah.
An individual actor, comedian,
Right.
and he battled with depression.
And
no one would have known.
And it's shocking on the outside. And you think, if I would have known, I could have helped. But yet we, in some instances, we own that because we shame people of coming out.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, I'm struggling with this, and even though we don't intend to, we make them feel less of a person because this is what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
When we could actually have helped them.
Yeah. And social media definitely doesn't help.
No.
That's part of why they think that the millennial generation struggles so much with mental illness is because social media is just a mental illness bomb, honestly.
Yeah.
And so there's been times where I've had to fast from social media because I know that part of my insecurities come from how many likes did this get? How many views did this get? What am I worried about? Is it about me? Is it about God? All of these different things.
So as we're trying to help people, for those of us who may be around somebody, what are some of the things that we should do and shouldn't do?
Yeah.
And just to when you may think somebody, like right now, I got a friend that I have a hunch that he's going through some depression.
Yeah.
And so and me being my non-confrontational self, I'm struggling. Okay, how do I come alongside this person? So what are some of the do's and don'ts?
Yeah. I'll give two do's and two don'ts.
Okay.
I'll start with one do. The do that I think is huge, whether you're battling with anxiety, depression, or any type of mental illness, thoughts of suicide, bipolar, schizophrenia, some of those more severe ones definitely need more medical attention. But again, first, associate it with professional help and spiritual help. For the spiritual help, which is something I can speak to, that has helped me, it might not work for you. It's worth trying, but I definitely believe that it will work. But if it doesn't, then don't give up.
Right.
Figure out what works for you. What has always worked for me with my thoughts of anxiety are when you switch your mindset from things that you're fearful of or sad of or insecure about to things that you're thankful for and praising God.
For. Yeah.
It works every time.
Every time.
And this is something Jake hit on this last Sunday for worship.
Yeah.
The power of praise cannot go understated.
No. There's something amazing about it.
Now, the hard part about it is when we're dealing with those things, that's the last thing on our mind. But if we can make it a habit to praise God in the middle of our panicking, something that just came to mind is, imagine what would happen if we spent more time praising than panicking and worshiping than worrying.
Wow.
It could just be powerful. And so I think that goes with your depression, your anxiety, your insecurities, whatever it might be, switching that mindset. That's a do. Huge do, no matter what you're doing. That, along with seeking professional help. Big don'ts. I want to just share a few of them. If you are walking alongside with somebody, the words you choose, it's, as you mentioned, it's almost better to just walk with and not say anything than it is to, well, is this going to be the wrong thing to say? You can never go wrong with encouraging people, but you can go wrong with encouraging people to do something, okay? And so what I would strongly recommend is avoid phrases like, just keep your chin up, or have you sinned recently? I've had a friend that is hurt by the church because he has diabetes, and he was told at a young age that it was because he sinned that he has diabetes. I would like to believe I'm a very strong man of faith, and I still battle with anxiety, and I still lean into God every single day, and I pray, and I read the Bible, and I'm a pastor, and I love Jesus with all my heart, and I still battle it. Just because you love, it's what Jared Wilson said, just because you love Jesus does not mean it goes
all
away.
this stuff goes away.
Now, I will say that when you lean into Jesus, that it makes it easier, and it does help the fight.
Right.
But it does not mean it takes it away. So just avoid phrases like, well, have you prayed more? yes, there is heart behind that, but rather than saying that, how about you say, can I pray with you?
Yeah.
Like instead of asking people to do something, like, hey, go pray, like be that person for somebody. Can I pray with you?
Yeah.
Can I walk with you?
And let them know, you know what, I'm going to support you.
Exactly.
I'm going to pray for you.
Exactly.
I'm gonna be there. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Hey, well, we are out of time tonight, and this
We could keep on going.
We could. I mean, it's so cool. We've got 20 viewers right now.
Yeah, here's
Those are
one thing
max
I would
viewers.
say, though.
It's crazy.
If there's someone out there that is struggling with something, depression, suicidal thoughts, you name it, you can reach out to us. You can call us at the office. You can private message us. You can get on our Facebook page and let us know.
Yeah, right now, private message us on Facebook. And you don't even have to share any details. Just type the word struggling.
Yeah.
One word.
And if you want us to reach out, you want somebody there to help, we can help you get into the right location. We can talk with you. We want to be there. Don't do this on your own.
Yeah, again, 1 in 2 people struggle with mental illness. You do not have to feel alone.
No.
I want to give you permission to speak out right now.
Absolutely.
And I want to give you permission to struggle. Like, this is a battle. This is a struggle. Too often we try to hold it all in. So, yeah, I'm so thankful that you said that at the end. I believe our number, it's 637-900?
7,000.
637-7000.
637-7000.
Yeah, 637-7000. Leave a voicemail. Just say, hey, here's my number. Reach out to us. Private message us now. Email us at office at crossbridgecommunity.org. I'm trying to get all this on the top of my head, but we care so much about walking with you. And regardless of where you are, even if you just need a safe place to talk, that's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Brad. Thank you for letting us.
Absolutely.
Not letting us, but joining in on the conversation. And thank you all so much for letting us just talk to you about something that is a touchy subject. We hope that you have some insight to take with you. This Sunday, we are kicking off a brand new series, and it's not going to be the most
flashy.
The most flashy. It's not going to be the most even exciting from a stage presence series, but it is going to be the most important series probably we've ever done.
It could be. Yeah.
It could be. And the series is called The Fight for My Life. This Sunday, Brad and our Next Steps pastor, Kim Chitwood, my mother, are co-teaching on Sunday.
Yep.
And Jake and the worship team have a powerful worship set for us. So join us at 9 o'clock or 10:30 or live on YouTube and Facebook at 10:30 as we talk about the fight for our life.
Yep.
Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Little
everybody.
tease. Oh, wait. Don't close it yet.
Don't go yet.
Don't stop it. Little tease for next week. Our worship pastor, Jake Eisenhower, is going to be in the building talking about his next step story.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah. So join us next Thursday at 6 + 2, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Now you
everybody.
can see.